In the early 19th century, modern Ukraine was incorporated into the Soviet Union. Many of these Ukrainians were farmers, workers, and regular-day people. Although many of these citizens spoke the Russian language, it was not their determining factor for their national identity. During this time, the Russian government was abusive towards the people, which only caused more turmoil. The Russian Tsarist government openly saw the Ukrainian people as, quote, little Russians. In one case in 1914, the government refused to allow the Ukrainians to celebrate the birth of a Ukrainian nationalist poet. These series of oppressive acts motivated the Ukrainian nationalist movement. The outbreak of the First World War severely damaged society as a whole in the Ukrainian and Austrian regions. Much of the intense fighting occurred in these locations, which only caused more issues for society. The Austrian-Hungarian Empire supported the Union for the liberation of the Ukraine in an attempt to foster anti-Russian feeling. Vladimir Lenin and the Socialist Party thought the Ukrainians could break down the Tsarist government, but they still believed they should be a part of Russia as a whole. After the Russian February Revolution in 1917, the Ukrainian nationalists created their own government council, the Central Rada. The Russian government was fine with this council being an autonomous administration, but this was still strongly opposed. The Ukrainian People's Republic was established, flew its own flag, and even minted its own currency in the Kiev area. This would be short-lived when the Red Army attacked and reclaimed Kiev and the southern Odessa regions. The Ukrainians fled west into the Hungary-Austrian region. The Ukrainians struck a deal with Austria-Hungary and they were given the city to live in along with some rights. By the end of the First World War in 1918, Germany took back Kiev and the UPR was reestablished. The collapse of the Russian and Austrian-Hungarian empires formed the Polish and Western Ukrainian People's Republic. By 1919, fighting from each side formed into the Ukrainian-Polish War. The WUPR then formed with the original UPR due to the rising threats with Poland and the Red Army. The Russian Bolsheviks launched an offensive in the northern regions of the UPR and took over many of these cities. The Bolsheviks established the Ukrainian Socialist Soviet Republic, but this also had land-collecting laws. These laws were widely unpopular and were also done with the threat of force. In December of 1918, the Bolshevik forces occupied Kiev for a third time and took over most of the UPR. As a result of the Polish-Soviet War in 1920, Poland took over many of the UPR and defeated much of the Russians in the region. The peace treaty in 1921 left many of the Ukrainians in Poland, and the rest was controlled by Bolshevik Russia. Eventually, the Red Army absorbed the Ukrainian forces and abolished many of their governing rights. By 1922, Soviet Ukraine was part of USSR and was led by dictator Joseph Stalin. Several decades later, in 1991, after the fall of the USSR, Ukraine officially became independent and could finally fly their flag after over 70 years. In February of 2022, Russia invaded eastern Ukraine in what would be years of continuous and ongoing fighting. The history between Russia and Ukraine stretches back over a century, shaped by complex policies, shifting borders, and deep cultural ties. What you just heard is a compressed version of a much larger and more detailed story, one that goes far beyond that can be covered in a single video.